let's face it, like not many people will just say, well, I just sell a low ticket offer and nothing else. No one really does that in practice, right? Like most people will sell a low ticket and then they'll probably sell a higher ticket offer later on. Like that will likely happen. You're going to always make the vast majority of your money in the business with your internal audience, your email list, your SMS list of your buyers and your non-buyers. That's where the bulk of the money is in the business, right? It's not at the very front of the business. Don't care what anybody tells you. So having a very focused process and different ways to keep it fresh, that's how you're going to make the most amount of money possible. Whereas what most people do is they've got one way to sell the same thing. They're on the same workshop every single month. They're not bringing enough people in at the front, and the business starts to falter and they wonder why. You cannot get into this place of, well, I don't want to be salesy or whatever, right? Because what that means then is you're thinking to yourself, well, what I'm selling is no good. Therefore, I feel bad selling it. But the way I look at that is we only sell things that we truly believe will be useful to the person who takes it. And so if I believe that truly, why wouldn't I offer it for you to buy it?
If you want to build a legitimate, profitable online business without shiny objects, without the hypey gimmicks, and without the stress and overwhelm, if you want to make more money without having to be present online all day, every day, pumping out content that nobody sees and hustling DMs to generate leads and sales, then this is the place for you. Welcome to the Digital Trailblazer podcast, your online business university, where you'll learn how ordinary people start from ground zero with no influence, no email list or audience to sell to, and no business or marketing experience, and go from working 9-to-5 jobs to building successful 6- and 7-figure online businesses and all the steps in between. Learn the strategies that worked and what didn't. Learn the mistakes that they made and how to avoid them, and then learn their plans for scaling their businesses and taking things to the next level. All so that you can build your business faster and easier and make more money without sacrificing the things that are important to you in your life. I'm your host, Leah Ray Getz, and with me is my husband, Todd. Now let's get to it with today's guest. Hey, Digital Trailblazers, super excited to have with us Stephen Summers. Stephen, go ahead and introduce yourself to our audience. Give them a quick little rundown on what you're about.
Okay, I'll be super quick. So yes, it's great to be here, everybody. My name is Stephen Summers, and I'm the founder of a company called Marketplace Superheroes. We teach people all over the world how to sell products on Amazon in a variety of different ways. And briefly, my story, I started back in 2010. I was like a lot of people. I didn't have a clue what I wanted to do, but I wanted to do something online. And I was actually a data processor at that time, meaning I took information from a form and I typed it into a computer all day, which is the most boring job in the world. But I had these dreams of starting an online business. And like a lot of people, I started searching around how to make money online. And as you both will know, and anybody else will know, if you start searching that, you usually see a lot of nonsense, a lot of really scammy stuff, weird stuff. And certainly I went down the rabbit hole of, affiliate marketing. And not saying that's a scam, but obviously, because I do a lot of affiliate marketing now, but more so at the time, it was very much, I'll teach you how to make money and then I'll make money by teaching you how to make money, which, is a bit weird. So after kind of going through a lot of that for quite a while, a couple of years, just trying to figure stuff out, never doing anything, I landed on selling physical products on the internet because at the time I wasn't an expert in anything. I didn't have any following. I didn't have anything like that. And at the time as well, marketplaces like Amazon and eBay, and they're still obviously thriving to this day. But at that time, they were really starting to boom. Very few people were selling on them at that time. So I was trying for about 2 years to get something going. I failed miserably time and time again. And I got to a point where I read a book called The Success Principles by Jack Canfield. And in that book, he said, it's all about asking around people around you. So long story short, I asked everybody I knew, do you know anybody who sells physical products online? I got connected with a guy called Robert through my aunt. Robert became a mentor of mine. I basically quit my job. I moved to Northern Ireland and I worked with Robert for about a year, doing all the most boring jobs you can imagine, working in freezing cold warehouses, rats running around the place. Not exactly a laptop lifestyle. But I learned how to build and grow a business selling physical items on marketplaces, which was great. At that time, I was studying a lot of direct marketing. So I was learning about email marketing and webinars and all these really exciting things that you guys talk about on this podcast all the time. But I had no outlet, no way to use any of that because in the business that I was in, and the kind of long story short on that one was Robert and I became business partners and we grew a 7-figure business selling on Amazon. And we actually got down to pretty much a 4-hour work week at that moment in time after about 2 years of working together. I just I got bored of just like, I wasn't making a fortune on Amazon. I was doing well, but I wanted to impact a bit more. And so that really led myself and Robert in 2014. It's 4 years after I started working with them. It led us to start our first digital product, or first information product. And it was around the time, it was a huge company in the Amazon space called amazing.com. They're still around to this day. They were huge at the time, and we had something a bit different to offer. And so Robert and I, we started this business called Marketplace Superheroes. Had no list, no following, nothing. And we grew that from literally scratch to, I think in 2015, in our first year, we nearly hit $1 million in sales. And that was down to a really chance introduction to an affiliate partner, which I can certainly go into in more detail. Like for us, affiliates and joint ventures have been the big thing that's grown Marketplace Superheroes. I suppose if we fast forward to today, 10 years since we started from an idea, we sold over, I can substantiate it perfectly, but I would estimate a bit over $40 million in courses and coaching. We actually started a freight company for our clients as well for a period of time. I recently exited that company actually. We've ran software for our clients. We've done all kinds of different things, and we've really learned how to grow an information and coaching business by not just focusing on selling a single course, but turning it into more of a company, selling all kinds of different solutions, and really growing something that would have had a much smaller revenue into a much bigger revenue by adding on add-on purchases, some affiliate marketing, and everything in between. And so here I am, millions of dollars later, a lot of battle scars along the way as well, which I'm happy to share, and here to provide as much value as I can to anybody who wants to learn how to grow their business doing this. And of course, you guys are doing a great job of teaching people that. So here we are.
Well, thank you so much. What a story. Number one, that's awesome. And I think two things that I would love to dive into a little further. We'll get into sort of all of the really cool back end promotional stuff that you are amazing at, because I really want to dive deep into that. Before we get into that though, let's talk a little bit about finding the right affiliates, because I think that is such, like, I think you get to a point in your business and you can do so much on your own, but just that one introduction to the right person can 10x what you're doing at the right time. So I'd love some insights on that process.
Well, what you just said is so true, Leah. Like, I mean, it couldn't be truer, because we literally had two people who became affiliate partners of ours who completely changed the course of our business. The original person, a guy called Jay, what happened there was interesting. So at the time, ASM, Amazing Selling Machine, this big Amazon educational program, was huge. They were doing massive launches. They were really successful, nice guys as well, I must say. And they had a lot of affiliate partners. And at the time, I met a guy in 2014 called David Schloss. David was the guy who was running our Facebook advertising at that time in 2015, a year after we started the business. And David, one of his clients was a guy called Jay. And he said, look, Jay is actually an affiliate. That's all he does. He had some information products too, but he was mostly making his money with affiliate marketing. And he said, look, I think you guys should meet and get to know each other. So we did. We met on a Zoom call, just like we're on now, and we got to know each other. And basically, he took a look at what we had to offer, and he said, you guys have something very unique that ASM, even though it's a great program, it's missing. We had a couple of different angles. We were teaching at the time Amazon on a global scale, not just selling in, say, Amazon.com, but you can sell the same products of your own in multiple different countries at the same time. So things like that helped us stand out. So that would be another, clue for anybody listening. If you have somebody who's promoting an offer and doing really well with that, if you have something that is different, but ultimately promotes the same vehicle, that can be something that's interesting to an affiliate partner. And in this case, ASM was a very premium price product, and we came along with something that was very affordable for more people. And so really we became almost like the lower cost alternative to ASM, which some people don't like that positioning. But for me at the time, with the lack of experience that I had, it made complete sense that we'd fill that part of the market. I think we did a really good job of that. And so basically, whenever Jay first agreed to promote us, we didn't have our processes in place. We didn't have even that great of affiliate tracking. A lot of our original conversation, honestly, looking back, was a little bit embarrassing when I think about it now, but it was a lot of trust, and it was a lot of like zapping sales to spreadsheets to show we made sales and things like that. And tracking softwares were not as good really back then. And to be honest, even today, tracking softwares have a lot to be desired really in many different markets. That's a story for another day. So he promoted us to his audience, and we sold over 300 units of our offer at that time. It was $1,000 program. And for us, we had never done anything like that. Like, we were doing webinars with Facebook advertising at the time. We were appearing on podcasts religiously. And so, whenever we would do a promotion off of Facebook advertising, we might register 400 or 500 people. We might sell 6 or 8, sometimes 10, programs. And we thought, this is great. Like, it's amazing. So all of a sudden, to sell as many as we did was unreal. Like, it was truly a breakthrough moment. So that was my first breakthrough in affiliate partner. And so a little bit of insight there. And closely following on the heels of that, another at the time, one person, Stefan, was a big partner of ASM as well. And so he looked at what we had to offer, and he said the same thing. There's a lot of people in my audience who will buy ASM from me, but some people can't afford it right now. So we will add you guys in as the alternative to ASM. And, they made it clear that ours was a lower price thing and stuff like that. And again, we were really happy to fill that role. So both of those introductions, I don't know the exact numbers, but I'd say between the front and back end, 100% collectively worth millions of dollars in revenue, especially Stefan and now his wife, Tatiana. To this day, they actually still promote our offers. They do great stuff on YouTube, but both really changed our lives actually in many ways. It helped us bring in thousands of students over the years. And, obviously they made a lot of money along the way as well. But for us, with such a nowadays dialed in process, and from the front to the back end of the business, getting the right affiliate partners, you have to think about it in the right way as well. Too many people think about like making money now as an affiliate partner, but actually the way you should look at affiliate marketing is it's a cost per acquisition question. So if you're advertising on Facebook or whatever the case may be, it's costing you a certain amount of money to acquire a client. So obviously you guys teach a lot of different stuff in the coaching sphere. But let's say somebody has a $5,000 offer or something like that. Well, a CPA, a cost per acquisition on that, it could be anywhere from $1,500 to $2,000, $2,500 on the higher end, maybe sometimes more. But it's going to be, on the higher end because it takes a little bit more time to acquire a client like that, especially at scale. So when you think about an affiliate partner, if you're selling an offer for $1,000 and you're giving the affiliate partner $500, if you're giving them 50% or she, that's the acquisition cost to acquire a customer is less, and it's completely variable in nature as well, because if you don't make sales, you don't pay the affiliate partner. And so it's a very efficient way to grow. And I'm a huge fan of JVs and affiliates. We could literally just talk about that today, mostly.
And I will say, for us, between when we first got started in online business, we were starting in network marketing, affiliate marketing. One of the things we did between that and then what we do now, we had this, we were doing a bunch of different things, kind of trying to figure out what we wanted to do next. One of the things we did in there was selling products on Amazon, and we did buy Amazing Selling Machine. How much was it? Like $5,000. It was, like you said, it's a premium product. It was like $5,000, and I remember the affiliate program for that, I think, paid out like 40% or something. Like it was big. It was a big. So people who had lists and who were doing affiliate marketing were making a lot of money. And everybody was promoting it because it was, such a big payday whenever you made a sale. And they had a good process for selling. Like it was a good webinar. Yeah. And the program's good too. But I will say, even after buying that course, going through it, I think I went about halfway through it, and I had a number of unanswered questions. I was making progress, but I'd kind of gotten stuck in the business for a little bit. So that's when, even though I'd spent $5,000 in that program, I still went on and I bought other programs from other people. I spent probably a couple $1,000s more just on other programs just to learn the other things I wanted to learn. Yeah. So even though someone may have already bought Amazing Selling Machine, those people are still going to buy other things.
Well, I would say, Todd, guaranteed they're going to buy more things because let's face it, when we all get into something, we well, it's a little bit of a crass title, but even in that buyer's heat, like, you want to buy more stuff and more stuff, and we all do that, and I think you're right about that. I would agree with that, actually. Yeah.
So what I'm hearing with finding good affiliates is, number one, being open to conversations and connecting with people who, especially those who have lists, are in that space, are familiar with things, but then also making sure you're differentiating in some way that would make sense for how they're marketing and who they're reaching.
Yes, and just to add to that, I would say, I mean, it is a big conversation, and we're more than happy to stick on it because it's actually a really, really good conversation as well. I see a lot of people making a lot of mistakes in this area as well when they're starting out. So I would say more mistakes that I do see, and I made them all myself, which is why I can talk about them. I think the big thing is I agree with everything you said, Leah, absolutely. But then other stuff would be, when you go to an affiliate, there are levels of affiliates as well, right? So in the space that I operate in with Marketplace Superheroes, we would be considered one of the top 5%, 10% probably in what we do. By no means are we the biggest company in the world or anything like that, but in our little space, we're well regarded. And what you tend to see when you look around is then that like there's a big difference between somebody who is like, we might promote something and we could sell maybe 100 or 150 copies of something, or somebody else maybe can sell 10 copies of something. So there's levels as well. And so as you're looking at partners, you'll start to learn in your industry who are the partners that can bring like a lot of revenue, who are the partners who can't bring quite as much. And it doesn't mean that you wouldn't go after or look to work with somebody who can't promote as much, but your expectations can be kind of like, you can put them in the right spot. And also if you're speaking to somebody who has a big audience and can bring a lot of buyers for you, oftentimes they will want you to do the same for them. And that there is a murky world in some parts of this industry of just like reciprocation, as it is known, where like I will only promote you if you promote what I have to offer. And like I don't mind, like I'm an open book. I don't mind saying that over the years that's something that happened with us. We got into this area and then we realized, the only way someone will talk about what we do is if we talk about what they do. And that can become a difficult thing because some people get trapped in the quote unquote JV or affiliate space where they have to reciprocate for maybe 10 or 12 different partners. So essentially their entire year is filled with them on a monthly basis having to reciprocate. And the reality of that situation is you're only ever going to bring a volume of buyers to another partner if you include your own best audience, which of course are going to be your buyers. But let's face it, like we don't want to be in a situation, good ethical business owners don't want to be in a situation where like you're just promoting different vehicles to your clients all the time. Like no one wants to do that. So what I have found over the years to become an effective strategy, we pick maybe 4 or 5 partners. What we look to do is have partners who are in complementary spaces, not competitive spaces, ideally. So for instance, we wouldn't want to align with somebody who says, well, Shopify is the best, right? So then don't do Amazon, do Shopify. And then if they were promoting us, don't do Shopify, do Amazon, because now people get confused and it's not the right way to do business. So a better example would be, we've got some people in that have got a really good program in the crypto space. Some people don't like that space, but these guys have got a genuinely excellent offer, well thought out. It's well regarded. I know the people personally. And so that's a good example of a good complementary partnership where they can bring a lot of eyeballs to our offer and we can do the same for theirs. But in both cases, the audience, they have a similar goal. In our case, they want to build a business online or an income online. And both of those vehicles help them actually achieve that same outcome. So I think if you're looking around, that would be the thing I'd be doing. I'd be looking around in my space, seeing who's complementary, not necessarily competitive. Now, it goes a little bit deeper though, because if you look at the space that you guys occupy in the coaching space, for example, that is such a, in not a bad way, but in a good way, it's a very fragmented space. Because if you think about it, like you could be an expert in, say, joint ventures and affiliates. That could be your whole thing. But then somebody else then could be a great partner for you who is also their audience's coaches, but they're brilliant with email marketing. Another could be brilliant with coaches, but they're all about paid advertising. And so that's the difference in the space that I operate in. I have like a sort of a business in a box, essentially, for Marketplace Superheroes. And so that's a challenge that I've had over the years, that it is quite difficult, because some people will come along and say, oh, well, like, why don't you talk about, I don't know, shooting short form content for Amazon products? But the reality is that just doesn't fit the models that we teach about Amazon. Because in most cases nowadays, we're teaching people how to sell already established brands like Disney or Lego or whatever on Amazon. So I think, again, it's like understanding the market and understanding the players in the market. And my final point to this would be really understanding your competition. I actually consult with some business owners now who are in the coaching space and other spaces. The campaign stuff that we'll get to, all going well, that's what we actually bring into a lot of these businesses, because they actually don't know how to run campaigns and maximize their business. And what I see to be one of the most common issues is that these business owners literally don't know who their competition is. They couldn't tell you what their offers are. They couldn't tell you what their angles are. They know very little about them. But you need to know your space inside and out. And when you do that, now you can understand where your offer lives in the ecosystem. And my final thing I'll say, and I will promise you I'll hand it over then again, but it's important, is having some metrics, right? Because everybody will have a different way that you're going to convert some of your clients. So let's just say, I believe in a case of what you guys do, you do teach things like VSLs and stuff like that to your audience. Am I right in saying? I remember we were talking about that, which is a great way for certainly a higher ticket purchase as well. It makes complete sense, especially with you guys teaching organic marketing as well. Like, that all makes a lot of sense to me in my head. But then what we got to understand is, then if you go to an affiliate partner, like, oftentimes they won't want to necessarily promote the VSL. They'll want a webinar, or they'll want a launch series, or whatever the case may be. And whatever you've got, even if it's a VSL, right? Having your numbers down, like, what are your KPIs? Like, how many calls do we typically generate? How many of those calls actually turn into a phone call? How many of those phone calls turn into a sale? What's our average collected revenue on a call? Like, when you have all that down, now you have like a model that you can show to a partner. And then the partner can start to think, well, if I was to send in 100 prospects to this thing, based upon the numbers that Todd and Leah gave me, we might expect to generate this amount of revenue. And based on the percentage that you're willing to give me, that might turn into this amount of money for me. Therefore, I'll happily promote it, or it's not really for me. And I think when you're a beginner, like I once was, sometimes you don't have these numbers. And so the way you get them is you got to run internally. You got to do your own thing, prove your conversion mechanism. So if it's a webinar, whatever, prove it internally. Then you can bring those numbers to an affiliate. Be honest. Hey, these are numbers from me. They're from paid advertising. So the likelihood is that they'll be better with you because you're sending endorsed traffic over to me. And so they'll think, oh yeah, actually, I probably will do better. So you have something. Whereas most people go to a partner, they expect people to promote them, and they literally can't tell them anything, which is not good.
Absolutely. I think that is just a wise and way more professional approach to it. I know Todd and I people ask us to promote them all the time, and they have no proven systems, no proven anything. And it's like, just get yourself together first. Like, take your time, get it together, and then come back when you're ready. Right. I think that's really good information there. So let's pivot a little bit and dive in to the campaign stuff that you do on the back end, because I know you are very well respected by some amazing marketers in this space for being the best at this. So spill the beans. Explain to the audience first just what it is, and then how it could make a difference in their businesses.
Well, strap in, because we could be here for a little while, right? So I think the first thing to define is what you consider the front and the back end of a business. So historically, the front end of the business is the initial purchase that somebody makes before they cross the threshold from being a prospect or a lead to become an initial buyer. So I have a lot of language that I've developed over the years around this. So I look at a buyer is somebody who buys something. I know that sounds obvious, but then a customer is someone who buys more than one thing. And I think that distinction in and of itself, especially as you start to grow, becomes like a very important distinction. Some people talk about their buyers, but what kind of buyer are we talking about? Talking about someone who's, who's maybe spent $7 with you, Are we talking about someone who spent $7,000 with you? They're different, right? So I think understanding that is a key concept, first of all. Then now we apply this front end and back end concept. This is something that has a lot of different opinions around it. So my take, I'm studied from a lot of different people now. You see all the books behind me. Is that the front end is going to be a low ticket purchase typically, or I would say a mid ticket purchase. Because sometimes the mid ticket $2,000 program, $1,000 program, that can be the moment when somebody first will transact with you. But equally, someone might transact a $7, which has a number of different pieces in that funnel, which brings up the average card value. So that would be my thing. That's what I would consider my front end. Front end is like these low ticket purchases though, okay?
Yep.
So that's number one. And the back end is basically then anything beyond that mid ticket purchase that you may have to offer. So again, many of you, like a lot of you, I've read all the Russell Brunson stuff. It's great stuff. I've read everybody else's stuff. I'm an absolute massive student of this. And I would just say, like, if we think about Russell, because a lot of people will know the value ladder concept, for example, well, then, you've got the high ticket purchases. You might have a super ticket. So a high ticket, if you have a $2,000 mid ticket, a high ticket could be $6K or $7K. And then a super ticket could be $12 to $25K. So it could be a mastermind program at the top, and then it could be more of a coaching style product there that takes the mid ticket and will provide you with coaching and stuff like that. I think it's important to also mention when you're starting out, and many of you are starting out listening to the podcast, you don't need absolutely everything, but you do need to choose where you're going to begin so that you can actually start to build out on this. And it really depends on the space you're in. There's a lot of nuance in this industry that is lost because most people just be like, oh, well, if you're just starting out, have a high ticket and then work your way back. But it really depends on the market and different markets. A high ticket in the fitness space could be $2,000. A high ticket in another space could be $10,000. There's a price differential as well. So keep it simple for now anyway. We have our front end right up to the mid ticket. We have our back end now. Well, for me, one of the biggest issues that I see, and I do have arguments about this from time to time with love, of course, is that different people will think a different way. Some people say you only have 3 products and that's it. And I've found in my own career so far that only having a limited number of offers, especially as you start to grow, and you start to run campaigns quite consistently like we do, it becomes very limiting over time. And it actually will constrain your revenue a lot as well. And the reason for that is because at the end of the day, as you start to build up an email list, an SMS list, a Facebook group, like you've got these contact platforms, which are critical. What will happen over time is people are going to get tired of seeing the same offer all the time or the same thing all the time. So what we've done in our business is we've created a lot of different ways where we can sell different kinds of things to our buyers. So people who are customers, people who bought things at a mid-ticket level, maybe they didn't take the high ticket just yet. Well, if they don't want the high ticket just yet, let's put something in place where they will get value. We'll only do it from time to time, but it'll bring us in some more revenue. So we do a lot of stuff like boot camps, things like that for those kinds of people that give them a great result in a short period of time, but it's something else that we can offer. We do other things as well where we will offer like different, in the Amazon space that we're in, for example, we might teach different strategies on Amazon, different ways to go about Amazon. So you're kind of like filling out your tool belt of skills. So we'll sell all kinds of different offers at different times of the year. A really good example would be around Q4. That's a very busy time in that market. So we'll do like a Q4 bootcamp or a profit sprint, as we call it. And we will sell an offer for maybe $1,500 around that time of year to our mid-ticket buyers, especially. And we'll bring in, depending on how it goes, could be $100,000, could be $150,000. And then we deliver that over a number of weeks, So I think what I'm getting to, without looking to confuse anybody listening today, is as you start to grow, there's lots of different ways you can monetize the same prospects and buyers that you have right now. And it's important to understand that you cannot get into this place of, well, I don't want to be salesy or whatever, right? Because that mentality usually what that means then is you're thinking to yourself, well, what I'm selling is no good, therefore I feel bad selling it. But the way I look at that is we only sell things that we truly believe will be useful to the person who takes it. And so if I believe that truly, why wouldn't I offer it for you to buy it? I don't offer it every week. I don't sell something every week. but I offer from time to time. And at the end of the day, we're in a business here, right? So in business, we sell things. Like that's what we do, right? And I think you can still be very ethical. You can still be very honest. You can give people ways to opt out of those campaigns on email as well, so they don't have to be there. So that's a broad kind of like not a particularly focused conversation around the front end, and then we're talking about back end. And for the most part, just to be clear, I'm not saying you come up with a new offer every single week and sell it to your list of non-buyers and buyers. What I am saying though is that from time to time, you'll offer different offers. If, for example, you feel like, well, I've talked about my coaching program for a while now, people aren't really opting in as much anymore. There's not as much going on. And if you're not bringing in enough prospects at the front of your business, it's just going to dry up. So again, I think the bigger conversation to have here as well is you've got to have a methodology where you're constantly bringing people in the front door of the business, new blood, new prospects. You're constantly turning those new prospects into buyers. At this stage of our business now, we do have a low ticket at the front of our business. Some people don't just yet. That's okay. You have to have a process to bring those non-buyers and low tickets to your mid-tickets. You have to have a process to bring your mid-tickets to your high tickets and super tickets. And then in between, there's lots of room for jazz, lots of room for different opportunities, times a year, promotions, etc. But again, we can go wherever you want to go on this, but that's the big, simple concept. And the way we promote all these things are campaigns. And a campaign, just to define that briefly, is simply going to be a focused period of time. It could be 2 to 4 weeks long, whereby we're going to have something to promote. It could be our high ticket offer, could be a new offer, could be an affiliate offer. And we're then going to think to ourselves, what's the best way to sell this thing? Oh, it's a webinar. Oh, it's a workshop. Oh, it's a product launch formula. The 3 video launch style launch. So we match up what we call a conversion mechanism, which is one of these ways to sell something, with an offer. And then we work our way back and we say, okay, if we want to sell this high ticket offer of ours, we want to do it via a product launch. All we do then is we fill in, what does a product launch look like? What has to happen over the next 2 to 3 weeks to make this work? And the reason why we have to have different conversion mechanisms, even for the same offer, so your high ticket offer, you could sell that in 5 or 6 different ways, right? The reason we do that is to keep that freshness with our audience. You're going to always make the vast majority of your money in the business with your internal audience, your email list, your SMS list of your buyers and your non-buyers. That's where the bulk of the money is in the business, right? It's not at the very front of the business. Don't care what anybody tells you. So having a very focused process and different ways to keep it fresh, that's how you're going to make the most amount of money possible. Whereas what most people do is they've got one way to sell the same thing. They're on the same workshop every single month. They're not bringing enough people in at the front, and the business starts to falter and they wonder why.
I mean, that's a lot to digest. And I think there's so many different pieces of this. I want, just for the listeners who are at the beginning of their journey of like creating their first offer, just take this, take some notes and file this away for later, because it's a little bit more higher level, right? This is for folks, they've got good offers, they're converting, but they probably found themselves in a rut because what they had worked, and now they just have that one offer. And they're not leveraging all of the other ways they could be generating more revenue from the same amount of traffic and stuff that they're flowing in.
Yeah, and I would just say to that, because it's a great point, because I'm always going to give you the full meal, and then we can start to pick out the pieces that we want to focus on, right? And so if you are starting out, which I did, I started with no list, no nothing. What I did at that point in time was I spent the majority of my time getting my webinar at the time in front of as many audiences as I possibly could. And that's because at the start, you're in the process of gaining land, right? You're getting more people into your list on a consistent basis. You're figuring out, how can I, if I'm doing organic traffic, well, what's my limit on that? Like, how far can I push that? Then I'm going to maybe move to some paid. So if we're running paid advertising, I'm going to start to try to get my metrics down so I can understand, how much was it going to cost me to get a buyer and stuff like that. But really then what's happening all the time, it should be happening all the time, is you're building an email list, you're building a contact platform list, right? So for sure, when you're starting out, you won't have a big team or anything, so you cannot do all these things because you'll explode. But what you can do is you can start with one way to sell your offer. And then maybe every quarter, you can think to yourself, what would be another way I could sell the same offer I have? So if I have a VSL right now, that's like the process, that's the automated process in this business. What about all the people on my email list then who maybe went through the VSL, maybe they didn't, or whatever, right? They didn't buy, because let's face it, right? The vast majority of your list is not going to buy what you have to offer straight away. And they're not going to buy what you have to offer ever. That's another truth, right? Like the vast majority of our audiences will not buy anything from us. Many will, but many will not. And that's okay, because there's other ways you can get paid from people who don't buy. But the big idea I would just say to you is just start thinking about, be open now to this idea that there's other ways I can sell the same thing. So if I have a VSL, maybe I take that VSL now and I split it up into 3 different videos. First video is the vehicle. What's this process look like? Just like a perfect webinar, you can, if you ever use that process. Second video, all about the internal process, the internal objections. I can't do it because of this, this, and this myself. The third one, the external factors. Like, again, you can study all this stuff. I'm just going to give you ideas now so you can start thinking in a new way. In the next quarter, you can start thinking about, oh, that worked pretty well, actually. You know, we ran people in, we gave them a lot of value for a couple of weeks, and at the end of it, we still ran them to a call, because you don't have to just sell directly. You can do the exact same thing. Then you can look at it again. Oh, what else could we do? Or maybe we do. Maybe we could put a book, like a little guide, in front of the VSL that we have. So then now in the next quarter, we'll promote our new book, and then when they get the book on the next page, we'll put the VSL in that we've already used. So it's quite cool when you start thinking about it in that way. You can really freshen up your approach, and you can start thinking about that even in an early stage. Like you just said, you don't have to do anything with it right now. But I think it's about becoming educated. And that's one of my issues I have really out there, is that I think it's like whenever I start talking about this, understandably, some people say this is quite complex, which it is, but then you can make it simple. But also I think just even like, do you know the movie Inception? You're watching the movie going, what is going on in this film? But by the end of Inception, it all makes sense. I think this kind of process, like you can put it all into your head, all right, and then file it away and then be like, think about it for a while, and then you can just open your mind to new ways, you know?
So you kind of mentioned earlier about, you know, if you're just starting out, you're just yourself, you don't have a team, and you're starting to put your offer together. The difference between starting with a high ticket and working backwards, or starting with a low ticket and working up.
Yeah.
What would you recommend? Like, what are the circumstances where you'd recommend a high ticket, starting with high ticket and working backwards, versus what are the circumstances where you would recommend starting with a lower mid ticket instead? Yeah,
that's a great question. It's there's a big answer to it too, right? Because there's a lot of, it depends, but I think if we kind of take it as like, think about the audience that is attracted to this podcast, I think would be a good way to look at it. I would say the vast majority of people listening to this podcast should start with a higher ticket offer. And the reason I say that is because there's a lot of room, right? Like here's the kind of reality as well. When you start your business, for the first few years, like you can do a lot of stuff we're talking about. You can write the emails. You can do it. Like there's a lot of leverage to be had there. You can have a one-person company, and I would say you can get to $1 to $3 million a year if you were structured correctly with enough leverage. I think you can do that, especially with all the technology available today with AI and all that kind of stuff. And AI is good. Like that's another topic. That'd be another topic for another day. I mean, AI is useful, and it's going to become even more useful. But I do think AI at the moment, people are like just kind of overreacting about it just at the minute. But I think in the future, it will be worth the hype for sure. But just to say anyway, like with AI and chat bots and everything, you can do a lot with that, right? So I think I would start with a higher ticket offer certainly in business situations and coaching situations, because you got more room. And so like the basic thing a lot of people will say is, well, if you sell something for, let's say, $5,000, just for easy calculation, you sell 10 of those in a month, there's $50,000 in revenue in the business. Now, obviously, what you guys teach, which is important as well, is like leveraging the delivery of that is going to become critical, or, you know, you're not going to be able to grow because you're going to be, if you're one-to-one, that's that. Like, forget it. You can't do it, right? So being leveraged and have a hybrid model is critically important. the reason that I wouldn't suggest necessarily starting with low ticket for this type of an audience is that low ticket and stuff, you have to be like, trying to say it in a way where I'm not, because I'm in no, like I started out as a beginner, but you got to be a good marketer to make that work, especially with paid ads. And you can kind of get away with not being the best marketer in the world, but by really like giving a crap about your audience, sharing great stuff, and you can enroll people into a higher ticket offer. You can do it. And I think there is some validity to when people say, well, it's easier to sell $5,000 offers than whatever many you have to sell at a low ticket level. But the problem with that conversation that I have is, like many of these conversations, is that it's too basic of a conversation, because let's face it, like not many people will just say, well, I just sell a low ticket offer and nothing else. No one really does that in practice, right? Like most people will sell low ticket and then they'll probably sell a higher ticket offer later on. Like that will likely happen. So anyone that just is like, oh, well, if you're selling something for $100, not many people just do that. Like I've never seen that anyway. Maybe there's a few out there, right? So I would just say in general, that makes a lot of sense. Because you can really leverage it, and you can get yourself into a place where, maybe you got to make, 3 sales a week or something like that. And then you start to work your way back and go, well, if I've got a conversion rate of 20 or 30% on a call, I can start to understand how many calls I need to generate. And it's a very understandable model. And because that's not at scale, and that's fine. The issue with high ticket at scale, as I'm sure you guys know, because we met at one of the events with Anik and stuff like that, is that you start to get into compliance issues at scale, and not in every market, of course, because there's some markets where it wouldn't necessarily be like a financial thing, so it's not really an issue. But certainly as you scale a high ticket phone sales operation, it can be tricky. And also I've done it. We've had at one point in our career, Marketplace Superheroes was at a higher revenue level, but not profitability level. We learned a lot from that as well. And we had loads of people in the sales team, and it was very stressful. So I think, again, starting out, bringing it back to that again, I would start I think in most cases, mid to high ticket. Because even a mid-ticket offer, like, at the end of the day, if you're selling something for $2,000 and you don't have that high of a cost of delivery, hey, like if you sell 10 of that in a month, still 20,000 right there in top line revenue. If you don't have massive amount of costs, like you can do okay with that, So, and again, I would just say it will depend on the market as well, Todd, like we were chatting about. So yeah, I would say in most cases, that's going to be the best way. And then working your way back. Because when you get to pay traffic, then if you are selling something that's higher ticket in nature, it's a lot more forgiving, because like I've been there. I actually tested for a period of time just selling a higher ticket offer, and we were pushing it. Like we were probably spending, it wasn't that crazy, maybe $100,000 a month in ads or something like that, which is still a lot of money, but it's not a crazy amount of money in this world. I actually, I'm working with a company with a partnership now, and it's a separate revenue stream to Marketplace Superheroes, and they'll spend $100,000 a day on ads. I've seen it. Wow. I've seen this. It's crazy. I've seen the inside of the operation, so it's mad. So like coming right back anyway, that would be my suggestion. Paid traffic is a lot more forgiving, because again, even if it's costing you $2,000 or $3,000 to sell something, for 10 or $8,000, you still have a bit of money there, And the big thing that I want to stress on today, if I do not stress this, I'm going to walk away being like, why didn't I stress that? You must be building up your contact platforms, your email list, your SNS list. If you have a Facebook group or whatever, you must be doing that. I spoke to someone, I will not mention this person's name, and they have a really successful business. I am coming in now and we're helping install campaigns into this company, and you will not believe it, but they actually, they have like over 100,000 people on their email list, and they don't email the list, and it's like, it's mad. And they just like, oh, we never really got our process down. I'm just like, I know, but like this is a huge asset now that's just sitting there dormant, doing nothing. And I would say guys would probably both be surprised just how many people will say that. They rely on social media, actually, in a lot of cases, to make their sales, because they're selling a higher ticket offer. They almost forget to do the basics, And
that's the thing, like the email list is so important. So many people focus on their social media content and things like that. But if you look at what the algorithm is giving you. If you look at the reach of your posts on a Facebook business page or a Facebook group or on LinkedIn or anything else, like your reach is never going to approach anywhere near 5, 10, 20%. It's never going to get to those numbers. You're lucky if you get 1, 2, 3% reach on any of your posts versus your email list. If you email your list, you could be getting on the low end, maybe 20% open rate, on the higher end, 40, 50% open rate. You're getting 40, 50% reach on the audience in your email list. But it's like you said, like people are ignoring that and they're focusing on social media where they have just minimal reach.
And here's another one I'll tell you, and this is something that's coming back into fashion. We do it a lot. I learned it from my friend Caleb, and it is a humongous opportunity when you start to get buyers in the door. Direct mail. Direct mail. It is a great way to sell high ticket offers, especially a phenomenal way, because when you think about it, you're going to get an 80% open rate in the mail, in the direct mail. That's what you're going to get. Better than email. I agree with your numbers, Todd, on email. At scale, 20%, maybe 15%. That's where you're going to end up, just how it is. I've not seen anybody at scale stay at a higher open rate percentage, especially now with the whole iOS update and stuff like that. You have to make sure you've got that toggled off, that, because Apple opens all the emails now and it can give you a false sense of open rates. Anyway, so direct mail is a really important part of our business now, especially because we're starting to play in a new area where we're bringing in buyers at lower ticket levels, and we're nurturing that relationship. We can contact any of those people with a direct mail blast, and it'll cost maybe $2 a letter to send out, something like that. And that can be a lot. Like if you've got 2,000 people there, it's like $4,000 to send out that mail blast. Then you have to start thinking about that in a way of, well, if 2,000 people are getting it, if 80% are going to open that, all right, well, this is starting to look a little better now. 1,600 people. Can I make like one sale to 1,600 people? Is that possible? Like, so your numbers start to work for you as you start to scale as well. And you start to kind of realize, okay, yeah, this can work. So even one of the things that I'm doing now, the companies that I'm starting to consult with, I'm going in and I'm saying, hey, why don't we let's add in direct mail? They're like, what? Direct mail? And it's like, yeah, and it works, because, it's always getting harder. It's always getting more expensive to reach people. And I think you can be scared of that, or you can just understand that the way you play that game is then by being a true multi-channel business. So even if you're starting out, don't be afraid of this conversation. Just start thinking to myself, all right, it's earlier in my career now. I can get my email list sorted out. I'll get that done. I can get people on an SMS list, have people opt into that. SMS is a huge part of our business. It does really well for us. Obviously, there are rules and whatever. You got to learn about that, but that's part of being a business owner. Then make sure you're collecting people's addresses whenever they're buying something from you. Now you have a direct mail opportunity, and just keep collecting those, because that is a really big asset for you as you go forward.
So in the info product kind of coaching space, you're seeing some sort of low ticket purchase and then using direct mail blasts to essentially book sales calls or to move them to the next level?
Yeah, there's one thing that I am still building myself, I have to say. It's something that I'm still mastering is, and I believe it's the way to go, is by building an automated monetization machine, as it's called, whereby you literally can build a pre-created calendar of promotions for an entire year. This is an advanced concept now, but you can get to a place where it's all automated. So like someone joins the list, could be free, could be a low ticket purchase. You only ever will send direct mail to buyers, never to non-buyers, but you can just automate the whole thing. So every quarter they're getting a direct mail letter. Every week, every second week they're getting an opt-in for something. Maybe it's a VSL or whatever the case may be. You're offering stuff on a regular basis. You can really you can build a machine basically.
Yeah, that's so cool. So my mind, are you like postcards, letters? Like what is that?
Letter. Yeah, so A4 is the page. That's what we would do. Maybe depending on the size of the letter, it could be 4 pages of double-sided copy. And you can literally think about taking your best email and turning into a letter. That's how you can think about it, right? It's like a really good, well-written email, formatted with headlines as you go down and stuff like that. And then, yeah, QR code and a link at the end to then come into a booking funnel, like you guys talk about. And yeah, they come in, they opt in. And then, of course, what you're doing there is when they opt in to the booking funnel, you're going to send them automated emails then. And it's great because like they're re-opting into something. They've been brought through a process and then you have a deadline on it. Deadlines are key. And you offer them a chance to book in a call, and come speak to our team. And so, look, we can literally talk all day about angles and re-angling things. I mean, it's a big conversation, but it's amazing how much you can do, especially with a business like your business, for example. Like it's already up and running, it's doing well. You have a lot of the stuff in place, but you maybe haven't thought about, well, we could be doing all this other stuff that's actually relatively simple, because I didn't even know. I just kind of learned it over the years. And what I often find is that the people who don't have the biggest audiences, but they've got a business, like I've got this Amazon coaching business, but obviously I'm marketing it. I'm not saying me, but people like me are oftentimes where you'll get a lot of these ideas that you will not hear a lot of the bigger names talk about, because the bigger names are relying on the fact that they have a big name, they have a big following. But there's these people out there who are sometimes running businesses even bigger than theirs, and you'd never heard of them before, And I think that's pretty cool as well. And they're doing a lot of this stuff.
And it's always fun to learn of someone new, and you're like, whoa, where were they been the last 10 years? That's awesome.
And I can't believe where the time has gone already. The time has literally evaporated on us today, but I would love to sit here for hours. I'm just realizing the time now. I know it's kind of weird, but oh my God. Yeah.
No, this has been amazing. We appreciate you so much and all the amazing wisdom that you've dropped on the audience. If they want to check you out and learn more about you, where should they head?
Yeah, well, if you want to watch what we're doing with Marketplace Superheroes, you can go check out, I would say, our YouTube channels are probably a good place to go. You'll see the funnels and all that if you want to look at that. I am reworking. I actually have to say I've been busy growing that business, so I don't have my own website really sorted, but I am sorting out my StephenSummers.com. That is something I'm launching very soon, just to have something in place. So there should be something there by the time you get there, all going well. But yeah, Marketplace Superheroes. And then if you're on Instagram, Stephen J. Summers, if you ever want to message me or anything, feel free. More than happy to talk to anybody and provide any help I can.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much. We really appreciate you.
Oh, thank you guys. It's been a real pleasure. I wish we could have stayed here for longer. I think we're having a great conversation.
You've been listening to the Digital Trailblazer podcast. For show notes and information about today's guest, head to digitaltrailblazer.com. Now, if you love this episode, if you got some value, make sure you leave us a review and subscribe. And be sure to share this episode with anyone you know who could use help to build their business. Thank you for listening, and we'll see you next time.